Hello, everyone. I'm going to act like we're just starting right now. Hi. We haven't been talking for half
Hello.
an hour or longer. This is just starting right now. But so here's what I wanted to tell you. I am I am cognizant of the fact that you've been removed, you've been discombobulated, you've been shaken all up. So here is what your exam is going to look like. Okay? Now you're going to get all of this. It'll be on. I've got it started, but it's not quite finished yet. But the deal is this. Yes, yeah. Actually, um, here's what I'll do. I'm just going to mute everybody. Everyone's already muted anyway. Good, nice job. Zoom etiquette, very nice. Um, it, so, and by the way, I think Zoom works way better than WebEx. Thumbs up if you think I'm right. Thumbs down if you think I'm wrong. Hands up like this if you care less. Okay, good enough. So, here's the deal on the exam. Here's the deal on the exam. It is going to be open notes, open book. And not just open textbook, open any books, any websites, anything you want to access. What I'm going to do is you're going to have a series of questions over different time periods, over different biographical people, and what you're basically going to do is you're going to tell me through open notes, open book, open source, whatever it is, you're going to list the event, and you're going to tell me what stood out to you when we studied it, and the impact of what was going on in that day. So you're basically going to come from a knowledge of just having the knowledge of what happened to analyzing it somewhat and saying, here's what this means. Here's what it meant then, and here's how we see it link to, or here's how we possibly see it linked to today. So I'm pushing you a little, but I'm not asking you to memorize anything. I'm not asking you to memorize anything. Let me say it one more time. I'm not asking you to memorize anything. It's been 3 weeks since we even touched church history, and we're looking at testing over 2 modules. So, in this discombobulated sphere, I think the best thing to do is to have you look at the events, analyze them, and then come away from that with with a with a better understanding. Um, Due dates for the papers. That's a great question. Here's my answer. Pay close attention to my answer. I don't care. I don't care when you get it in. I simply don't care. It just has to be in by like April 10th. April the 10th. As long as it's in by then, I've got so many papers backed up that I'm grading now. I got the 4th-year papers I'm responsible for that I need to launch into. I won't be grading them quickly. So there's no sense in you busting your humps trying to get it done, because it just I won't be looking at them. So you today's the 24th. Even if it's April 15th, that's fine. You get them to me when you get them done, um, and so they will be in your hands tomorrow, because I will finish them off this afternoon before we're having an MUBI board meeting, which we will mostly be online for. I'm going to be doing that. I will have that done, so you will have these exams in your possession by tomorrow. I will send them out in Word document format, so that you can just take it and you can just type the answers in, and then email them back to me. So you can do Google Docs and share it. You can do Microsoft Word. You can do whatever you want with it. As long as you get it back to me by mid-April, we're golden. Now, I'm going to unmute everybody. How does that sit with you? Does that work for you? Hand up, Anna, go ahead.
So does that mean that we can work on it and then take a break and then work on it again for the exam I'm talking about, or do you just have to sit down?
Completely. You can do one question a day for the next 20 days because there's probably going to be 20 questions. Yep, Noah.
So what are we going to be doing for like resources and things for the papers? Do you want us to look up online or stuff like that, or like
you can use whatever sources, whatever good sources you find, you can use them. It's totally open. Yeah, just don't plagiarize because I'm probably going to run them through because of some online access that I have. I'm probably going to run them through Turnitin, and so I don't want you copy and pasting anything because I'll catch it. So don't plagiarize. My goal is for you to analyze the events, and so tell me what the events are, the basic events, and you don't have to tell me all of them. Just tell me the ones that stood out to you or that stand out to you even as you're going through it, and then analyze those for meaning for today, or for then, what it meant then, and how it could possibly link till today. Hannah.
Ben's trying to get on. He didn't know that he had to download the link or something like that, and so he is trying to get on to that. So
okay, because that was the reason I sent out early, just so folks could test it. But once he clicks it, it should download the Zoom portal, because probably that's what you all did, right? It said, hey, you need to download this, and then just click it and start it. So thank you for letting me know that, and let him know that it's being recorded if he doesn't get on, that I'll be sending it out to everyone. John, you had your hand up?
I was just going to point out the same thing, but where did Alex Freeland go?
His computer shut down. He's working on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good enough. So that's essentially what's going to happen exam-wise. Does that make sense to you all?
Clear as mud.
And well, are you at least relieved that I'm not asking you to memorize anything?
yes.
Oh yeah.
I stink at memorization, so.
Well, at this point in the game, with it being what it is, for me, having you cram all this information back into your head didn't make sense to me. And I was going back and forth between doing a typical exam up or having you write an extra paper. And as I thought, well, wait a minute, what's the combination of those two things? The combination of those two things is to give you an exam that is all essay questions, and you'll respond to those questions with the events, and then analyzing the events and giving me the impact of then and the impact to today, if there's a link. Hi, Ivy.
Hi. So, question, I didn't quite hear the first part. What exactly are we doing for the exam?
For the exam, it is total essay questions. No memorization. It's open source, meaning you can search online, you can use any books you have, and you can use your notes.
Okay, thanks.
So no memorization.
Woohoo.
No cramming. So what I thought we would do today is just go through and kind of just review, because I figured there's no sense giving you new information at this point for one or two classes. So I've got some PowerPoints that I'd like to walk through, and I'm going to leave you unmuted unless there's a dog barking or a cat scratching Jonathan and you're screaming Jonathan because it hurts really bad. Except if those things are going, or if you're coughing like you're doing, Brittany, right? So if you need to self-mute, go ahead and do that. But I don't want to do all the talking. As we walk through some of the old PowerPoints that we've gone through, if something stands out to you, go ahead and jump in, okay? And you can put your hand up, but if I don't notice you, because I'm looking at, because once I share, I'm not going to be able to see your hands quite so easily. So just go ahead and just let me know who it is. Let me know who it is. Well, because I won't see your hands at all, because I'll only see one person or one or two people on the side once I share. So I'm going to close my participants right here and close the chat. And this is the reason why I am why I have 2 or 3 computers open is to be able to start with this. So before we begin our class review, let's pray. Father, thank you for who you are. Thank you for the fact that you can give us peace and joy even in the midst of some really strange circumstances in our countries and in the world right now. Father, you always use these things in our lives to point us towards you. Lord, may you do that even this day for each of us, in the name of Jesus. Amen. So, this first slideshow goes back now in your notes, and I don't know if you've got your digital notes there, or if you don't, it makes no difference, but what's the age that we have started studying in?
Medieval church history.
Medieval church history. So when does that start? Roughly. When does the Middle Ages start, basically?
A long time ago.
Hey, excellent. That is so true. But how long ago? Someone say 590.
1000 AD.
Someone say 590.
I said
590
already.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. And but it's so small now because you're just on the side, Jonathan. So 590, and who's the first pope in 590? The first real pope.
Gregory.
Power. He's great, and his name starts with the same letter.
Gregory.
Gregory the Great. Gregory the Great, he begins, and he served 5 popes before he became pope, right? And then he becomes the pope. Now, what is he known for? What is the big push that affects us? What's the big push that he's known for? He sends out a second Augustine. Not Augustine of Hippo, who we looked at in the 300s in ancient church history, but Augustine of Canterbury. That might give you a hint. What was Gregory wanting ultimately Augustine of Canterbury, what was he asking him to do?
Extend the influence of the church.
Extend the influence of the church. Now, there's a time delay, so we can't do this very well. But what does your mug say? What did your mug say, Alex?
If you were a fruit, you'd be a fine apple.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. When I had a Zoom meeting with President Little, I was drinking from this mug, and he got mad at me. Cairn University. It was, because it's not MBBI. But anyway, so Gregory tells Augustine, because he's touched with, they're not blank, but they're angels. They're not, who are these people? These blonde, blue-eyed people. He was told they are blank. He says, no, they're not blank. They are angels.
Angles.
Angles, very good, Angles. And Angles, with the Jutes and the Saxons, went on to found what country?
England.
Angleland, that's right, Angleland, England. So Gregory sends missionaries to the barbarians of Angleland. But where did those guys come from? Where did the Jutes, the Saxons, and the Angles come from?
Europe.
Which part of Europe?
Scandinavia.
Once again, the word starts with G, but it's a soft G.
Germania.
Germania. They were Germanic tribes that came across the English Channel and pushed the Bretons to where? Where was the last, in Angleland, where was the last holdout for the Britons, who had been Christian, by the way?
Wales.
Wales, and above Wales
Scotland.
is what?
Scotland.
Not quite.
Darn it.
It is where Corey is, I think.
Oh, Cornwall.
Cornwall. So Wales and Cornwall was the last holdout of the Bretons. But if you look at that map, at the English map, what do you have above Angleland? Scotland,
Yes.
and over to the west, you've got Ireland. What's
Yes.
going on there during the 500s and the 600s when Gregory sends Augustine?
Pope, the Patrick man.
Celtic Christianity. Celtic Christianity is going on. So you've got Patrick having saved Ireland, and then Columba up here having brought the gospel up here. So you've got Celtic Christianity that's missionary minded as well. And what happened as Augustine's influence in bringing the Roman religion, the Roman Christian religion, to Angleland, what happened when they met the Celtic Christians? Did they embrace each other?
Nope.
Very good. By the way, I asked the question, you knew, because
Burn them at the stake.
what was the conflict? What was the conflict?
They didn't like each
That's
other.
power, Jesus or the Pope.
And that's true ultimately, but the living word, which is Christ, is directly aligned to the authority of the written word. And yes, Alex.
I just glued in here. Was I supposed to have my mic muted the whole time?
No.
Because everyone else has their mic muted.
Not everyone. I don't think.
I just do that by choice, Alex.
You can't answer any questions.
I can turn it on and then answer the questions.
Okay, sorry. So I'm allowed to answer questions? Actually?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, jump right in. Yeah, jump in
Okay.
anytime. Like this is a back and forth. This is a back and forth. So just keep it off mute unless you've got background noise that would be frustrating. So you've got this conflict of the written word and the style of ministry that was based on the word versus the paganized Christianity that was coming out of Rome. Now, I don't need to teach you new stuff, but I started to read a great book called The Darkening Age. The Darkening Age, and it was really vilifying the way that the Catholics went in and destroyed all the idols, destroyed the temples, destroyed the pagan temples, and they're saying that the pagans looked at that and they went, what kind of a religion is this that has to destroy another religion rather than let the truth of it win, right? And that's conversion by force, which the Roman Catholic Church has been doing since about 600. Another group also did it, and you saw saw it already, because in that mid 600s, now you've got this other entity in the heart of where Christianity started in the Middle East. You've got the emergence of Muhammad and the teaching of Islam. And so this is where I would have played a video. And instead we're going to go to Muhammad. So Muhammad, he was born into a powerful family, but both his father and his mother died young. His uncle takes him to raise him, and he begins to have struggles in his life somewhat, because he's a bit of an outcast, because the other people who are in charge don't want him to take his father's place or that position within their society, so they push him to the edge. So he's not a popular guy. But then when he is 40, he gets married to an older woman who has lots of money. So now Muhammad has what very few of us will ever have, nice clapping, the ability to, and there must be a way, there we go, I just changed mine to a grid. I don't know if you can do that or not, but now he's got time. He's kind of helping his wife manage her business, but he's got time to sit and think and philosophize, right? So this marriage frees him up to do some thinking. Now he's got influence from two different brands of Christianity as he expands, two different brands. The Nestorian brand that we talked about towards the end of the class, of our last classes, the lost history of Christianity, and that Syriac or Nestorian church that went east to China. That influenced Muhammad, but the Roman version was creeping in too. So he gets both of those, as well as kind of a wayward Judaism. And so he really believes, when he begins to have visions after his meditations, and he's scared to death. He is scared to death. Now, I just heard this. This is news in my head. I just heard that there is a book called Muhammad's Confessions. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. I've not been able to find it. They say it's hidden in the Vatican, but I could say that there's 5 books by Muhammad, and it's a science fiction series, and it's hidden in the archives of the Vatican, right? I mean, I have no clue, but it would be interesting if that's true, because Muhammad had doubts about what was going on. What was he talking to, God or the devil? And they didn't really know. So through this vision, he believes he is a prophet of God. I got to tell you, when you look all down through church history, all down through cult history, so many people believe they're the last prophet. They are Elijah that is to come. They are the son of David. It's happened all over. And so he's not unique in thinking that. And it's what I'm sure when you take, did you take cults this year?
Next year.
Next year. When you take cults next year, oh, wow. Pastor Doherty may not be teaching that class next year. I think it might be, I think Mr. Grant might be continuing to teach that. But the reality is, it sticks in my mind that Pastor Doherty taught us the commonality of error. You see a lot of commonalities between Satan's errors. The study of Islam and the study of Mormonism are so close. There's a commonality of error. There's a commonality of believing you're the last prophet of your this or your that. That's interesting. Who's putting that up there? Who's writing on the board?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
You were my guess, Alex.
I didn't do that. Can I do
that?
that?
That ability. No, that's great. If you want to highlight something, go right ahead. Any of you, apparently. So Muhammad, as he's expanding Islam expands in his lifetime, but not like it did after his death. After his death, those who came after him, they took the sword and they just went to town, and they conquered the whole area all around. Robert Spencer, in his book, Did Muhammad Exist? The pillars used to support the traditional account of Muhammad's life began to crumble upon close scrutiny. True enough, beginning in the 7th century, Arabian conquerors went out and created an immense empire, but as this book will show, historical and archaeological records cast serious doubt on the claim, so that they did so under the sway of what was already a fully formed religion, with the revealed book as its centerpiece and the revered prophet as its model for conduct. Now, this is just out there. Robert Spencer has a website called Jihad Watch, and he says it's sketchy whether or not Muhammad really existed. It's sketchy. Now, it really doesn't matter if he existed or not. It really doesn't matter. Millions believe he did. And there's no way to prove to millions of people that he didn't. If he didn't exist, there's no way to prove that to millions of people who already believe it by faith. So it's not really a trail you need to run down. It's interesting information to have, and I would encourage you to check his book out, but it doesn't really matter in your arguments with Muslims. If you tell them Muhammad doesn't exist, just imagine if they told you Jesus doesn't exist. Oh, no God but one. Who's the author of that, John?
Nabil Qureshi.
Oh, Nabil Qureshi. May he rest in peace. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of us
said
actually
that
had
in
a
his book.
conversation when we were in Ethiopia.
Okay.
We were talking about, I think someone had asked an atheist professor, how do you convince religious people that believe that a God created the world? How do you convince them that that's wrong? And the person had said, mock it. Like, mock them, mock their belief, mock it all. So the first person answered, great, start in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One single voice crying out, even this, that Robert Spencer, I think, has a fatwa on his head that got a death sentence for writing this book. So there are ramifications to that. Now, if you the importance of any evangelism is relationship, right? You this comes in what Nabil Qureshi in his conversations with David Wood. That's where it was the relationship where they were able to have mutual respect back and forth, and David Wood just began to tear down all of his arguments little by little. But that doesn't happen on a debate stage with a stranger. That happens over coffee with someone who knows you care about them, right? That's where that works best. I'm not saying that apologetics shouldn't happen. I think they should, but the outcome is to raise interest and then to really have conversations. So as they expanded, they have a belief in God, have a belief in his angels, have a belief in some of the Hebrew prophets, even in Jesus as a prophet, in the resurrection and the day of judgment. There's similarities, but there's even branches of Islam that believe in predestination. So you've got this whole thing happening, and they're expanding now. While they're doing that, and they're forming a theocracy, nations under Allah. Nations under Allah. Allah is our king, and we have caliphs who are his spokespeople. Well, they're really taking that model from Rome. Rome does the same thing with the Pope, and now there's Christian nations and there's Muslim nations, and they come into conflict, which is going to lead to some not great stuff. There's 4 major precepts: prayer, purification, alms, fasting, and pilgrimage to Mecca. How many of you are within driving distance of a Muslim family? How many of you are, you know there's Muslims around you?
I know of one.
There you go. There you go. It, all you have to say is if I drive to the nearest city, how likely am I to see a Muslim? Because they are here by the millions and they all need Jesus.
Yeah, you'll see plenty in Portland.
Yeah. You know where you go to see them in Portland? Go to the Portland Post Office.
Really?
You go to the Portland Post Office, it's been dubbed the United Nations. because they all have post office boxes because they've got stuff that's going back and forth and they all live in apartments, and so they have post office boxes. Honestly, you go and sit in the Portland Post Office and you'll see there's over 90 languages spoken half an hour away from here at Portland High School. Over 90 different languages spoken in that high school.
Wow.
And a whole lot of them are Muslim voices.
Yeah.
So there's and I know if you're up in Ontario, Toronto is packed with people from all over the world. Ottawa, packed with people from all over the world who need to be reached for Christ. We can't look at them as a citizen and say they're our enemy. They're taking over our culture. They're taking over our resources. All that might be true, but we're citizens of heaven. We're ambassadors of Christ who need to take the gospel to them. And as there's more of them, more and more of them, we need to be more and more reaching them. But in the pilgrimage to Mecca, and here's a picture of Mecca. By the way, you can go on a sky cam and find Mecca. It is empty. It's never empty. It's never empty.
You mean
Because
like
of-
currently it's empty?
What's that?
You mean currently it's empty?
Currently, it's empty because of the crisis. They've closed it. They've
Like
closed
they
it.
can't all be praying within 3 feet of each other because that's a little bit not social distancing.
Well, you
Has to be 6 feet.
look at that crowd. You look at that
Mm.
crowd, and that's usually a daily occurrence in Mecca. That it's just packed in, shoulder to shoulder, and because they're required to make a pilgrimage there. So that's their holy shrine, and find a sky cam with Mecca on it, and you'll see eerily quiet. Eerily quiet. There's Mecca from another view. So Mecca and Medina is where he fled to as they were beginning to grow, and his family was basically following him. They fled to Medina, continued to grow. When they were strong enough, they came back and they took Mecca by force.
Okay,
Yes.
boy.
Yep.
How in the world does somebody go from having absolutely zero influence to influencing hundreds of thousands of people? Like, I mean, how does that even work? Like, did he go out and put out flyers on street posts and be like, "Hey, follow me"? Like, how did he get the follow?
Keep in mind how it all went back then. And it happened in the Christian countries too. They went after the chieftains. They went after the leaders of a clan and converted the leader of the clan who brought his whole clan in, because there was loyalty to your leader, right? And so what, because of Muhammad's connections through his parents, and even though they were dead, he still knew how to deal with the upper crust of society. And so he's leading. He's not evangelizing one-on-one on the street. He's going after the influencers. Columba did the same thing with Christianity in Scotland. He led a king to Christ, and the whole group came. Charlemagne, he becomes a Christian, so everyone in Charlemagne's rule are now following Christianity because they were trying to do a theocracy up there as well. So it wasn't that there was a lot of personal conversions. There was clan conversions, and so that's how that got to expand quicker, rather than just going person to person. that whole the CEF song, if you tell two people and they tell two people, then four more people will know, and they tell two people and then more and more people will know. We talk about one-on-one conversion, one-on-one conversations. They're talking about just converting a whole tribe of 500 people, a whole tribe of 1,000 people, right? Because if the leader says it, that's what it is. So I think understanding it in that context, that's how that happened. And then once they got strong enough and formed enough alliances in Medina, they went back and they overtook Mecca, cleaned out that hall that was all filled with idols, and destroyed all the idols, and it became a monotheistic place of worship, worshiping only Allah. So that's how that happened.
I have a question.
Yep.
What influence did Zoroastrianism have on Muhammad?
There was a little bit in there. Zoroastrian kind of crept in a little later. It was more Nestorian Christianity, which was also influenced by Zoroastrianism, and but it was this conflict, because keep in mind, take a look at the map that's up there right now, and somebody highlight Lebanon for me. Come on.
I'm going.
Come on, Alex. So
I'm trying.
So
I'm gonna see my pointer. My mouse? Can you see my mouse?
No.
Okay.
So right here, right? You think about all the trade that is coming. There you go. All the trade that's coming through this area right here, right? And the Muslims at the time had taken over this whole entire area. So all of the trade from over here was coming to here to go out to the rest of the world, right? And so that was the way that they were able to influence it, was through sliding through all of that area, right? And so that's where the influence came from.
Knock it off with the hearts.
I can see you're trying to share the love of Christ with Muslims. I think that's amazing. Did I answer your question? Because I've forgotten what it was. Who asked the question?
Ben.
It was me,
Well,
Ben,
Ben's here.
like Jost.
Well,
Not
Ben,
all there, so yes, I am here.
what was the question?
What influence did Zoroastrianism have in
right.
Islam?
So Zoroastrianism is from like India and Pakistan. Currently Pakistan, it used to be India. That's kind of where that all began, up in the northern reaches there. And so that influenced it a little bit, but not as much as Nestorian Christianity, which worked along with because Nestorian Christianity continued to exist in Muslim-held countries. And Nestorians even held chief positions within governments of Muslim-majority countries. But they never converted, because they were smart enough that they gave them honor as long as they were useful to them.
How has your research gone on that? Like, I'm very interested in that.
Well, I got stopped up a little bit because I got totally turned on to the history of the Black Church in the Maritimes, and that's an amazing study. But we must continue, or we'll never get past Islam. So that's just a list of the differences between the Sunni and the Shia. But then we studied the Frankish Empire, as you will recall. Where is the Frankish Empire located?
Italy.
No.
France, Germany. That's a lovely area.
France.
France.
Almost.
England.
Frankish Empire.
France.
France. Very good. It is the French Empire. And there is Merovich, who formed the Merovingian dynasty. That's just a cool. They were the long hairs. Keep in mind, they were the rulers with the long hair. Each of them were awfully proud of their long hair. So the Merovingian dynasty, this is, and you can move your pictures around to be able to see the chart better, depending on where those pictures are for you. But it comes all the way down, and Merovich, he had a son, Chelderic, who didn't do much, but then Clovis begins to really take it on, and it comes all the way down here to Charlemagne the Great, down here in the bottom right-hand side there. So the Frankish Empire in the Merovingian dynasty, they had what became the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, which was no longer Roman. And this is just the taking a little closer look at that family tree. Now this is going on at the same time that Islam is expanding. So there's what they found in Childric's tomb. They found this ring, which was written in Latin, which was really quite something for the. I'm not sure how you're doing that. That's cool. But yeah, these are the bees. They gave honor to the bees. Now, who was it that in a more modern age adapted the bees for his symbol?
Napoleon.
Ah, very good, Napoleon. But they found this ring which had Latin insignia on it, which was uncommon for a Frankian king, but it showed that he had been declared to be the Holy Roman Emperor. And this is some of the other stuff that they found in his tomb, but you can see all the different kinds of things that they had with the rings and the cow's head, but all the different bees that I don't know what, I don't remember what the big deal was, but it was a big deal to them, I guess.
What?
Was that Napoleon's tomb or a pharaoh's tomb?
That was Childric's tomb. That was
Ooh.
Childric's tomb, which they had discovered not long before Napoleon came to power. So the Merovingian dynasty, it was known, but they had uncovered his tomb like about 20 years before Napoleon went on his attempt to conquer the entire world. And there's Napoleon, and you can see the bees in his robe there.
I have power back at my house.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Nice. Now my computer and phone are not at risk of dying in the middle of class.
Excellent, Ivy. I didn't realize you guys were without power. We have power.
Yep. But it's because we have a generator, not because we actually got it back.
I gotcha. Interesting. Well, I might lose power, so if I do, class is over.
Okay.
So there are all the different dynasties that came down through. Clovis, second king, he's the first to unite all the Frankish tribes under one, and he's the founder of what today would be modern France. Someone was reading about Clovis, a young lady was reading about Clovis when she found a Clovis point arrowhead, and that's why it got named that, was because she was studying about him. And there's a whole theory of Clovis man being the hunter-gatherers that came after the Ice Age. And they're wrong, but that theory's out there. Has nothing to do with Clovis except for he got that. So there's all the Frankish tribes that united under Clovis. He's the first Christian leader. So the Merovingian dynasty was there, but Clovis, he goes further, and he sees the opportunity to reunite Rome. Yeah, I can't imagine all that hair in a time where it must have been very difficult to take care of. Must have been really greasy most of the time. But this was the Pope giving a Christmas blessing and baptizing the Merovingian dynasty as the one who followed up. Now, this is his Christian influence was his wife, and I've forgotten her name right off the top of my head.
Was it wifey?
It certainly was not. But Charles Martel, he's the first one who truly clashes from the Frankish dynasty. He's the one who truly clashes with the Muslim expanse. Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer, he comes down through from and he begins his own dynasty that leads to Charlemagne. And Noah, this was very nice of you to play the video that we would have played in that section.
I love that.
Charles Marteau. So Charles the Hammer at the Battle of Tours pushed the Muslims back into Spain, and they left France. And that was the wall. Because if the Muslim expansion had been allowed to happen, we would live in a far different world today. We would live in a far different world, because had they taken over completely, Europe completely, like seemed to be their goal, we would not have the same European heritage that we have today. Western civilization as we know it would not have existed if that played out in that way. Someone else may have come along and pushed them back, but Charles Marteau did it in the 600s. Battle of Tours, 732 AD. And they began the Carolingian dynasty from Charles Carolingian, and it leads to Pepin the Short. I got to tell you, I wouldn't mind my name being, written for historic reasons, but I don't know that I'd want the short connected to it. But there he is, nevertheless. But Charlemagne is the man. Charlemagne is the greatest of all the Frankish empires, of all the Frankish emperors. Charlemagne stands out because he expanded his territory in a way that none of the rest of them did, and he became a ruler of Western civilization. But this whole time, keep in mind, there was the non-compromised church. You will have a question on this. You will have an essay question on the Waldenses for sure, because they represent, as Celtic Christianity did in the north, the Waldenses in northern Italy into southern France, in the valleys of the Alps. That's the reason why they're called Waldenses. You'll read some historians who haven't done their homework well say they were called Waldenses because of Peter Waldo. No, they were called the Valdenses because they were from the valleys of the Alps. They existed before Peter Waldo became associated with them, and they were true believers. They were true believers, staying outside of the civic power of Roman Church government, and outside of the countries that were strong. They went out into the back country so that they were removed, so that they wouldn't have to compromise what they believed in attending a Roman church. Feel free to look at the lineage videos in your study of doing the essay questions. Feel free to look up all those lineage videos that we watched. Even though the guy is Seventh-day Advent and he throws that in there a little bit here and there, he does an excellent job of surveying that particular land. So there is Charlemagne's empire at the end of his time. There he is. He is within those borders, and you see the like Czechoslovakia, Czechsy. I mean, that's even back then. So it's and then you get the Serbs here. It's just it's such an interesting, to me, it's such an intriguing thing that he held this much territory, even down into Italy. So the Waldenses, they're in the Alps, like up here, right? Like they are in this land under the banner, but not in touch, because there was very few that traveled, but they would travel out as missionaries to the marketplaces. Thank you, very nice. They would travel out to the lands with the scriptures that they had handwritten, portions of it sewn into their coats, as you'll recall. And it began to change after Charlemagne. Remember Charlemagne's mistake? Tell me what Charlemagne's mistake was.
He definitely mandated Christianity, like made it a state religion, and then that introduced a whole lot of like nominal Christians.
Yes. So that had been going on already, but Charlemagne certainly did that. But this map reminds us of, from a governmental perspective, what was Charlemagne's mistake.
Oh, didn't he split his empire? He split it up with different people.
The Carolingian dynasty felt like all their sons needed to be involved in their inheritance, and so it split between three of his sons. When he died, what had been his whole empire gets split in thirds. And because the human heart has no sin in it, these guys all got along, right? Yeah, no. There was war, and ultimately, it leads to the loss of the Frankish Empire, and Otto the Great, my 32nd great-grandfather, as you can see from me right here, my dad, my grandmother up here, all the way up through the Eleanor of Lancaster, Countess of Arundel and Warren, Henry of Lancaster, Frederick the First, Duke of Swabia, Frederick von Buren, all the way to Otto the First, Holy Roman Empire. You do one of two things in genealogy. You either go back to peasants and your line dies out because no one kept the records, or you tap into royalty. So if you've got royalty, that's how you get it, because they had records. And but anyway, I don't know if this is true or not. However, this is kind of cool. This guy here, John Carman, his son James Carman was a Baptist preacher in the colony of New Jersey. Right here. Oh wait, no. This guy, Caleb Carman Jr., his brother James Carman was a Baptist preacher in the colony of New Jersey during the time of the American Revolution. But all the way back to Otto, the Holy Roman Emperor. Video 12, we get to the land as it was, right? The serfs. And the great schism coming up to the Crusades, the great schism of the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church. who's right in that argument, by the way, between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church?
Neither of them.
All in favor say
Depends.
aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. None of them are right because they all baptize babies. That's just indicative of their wrong understanding that they were still all looking for state churches, a state church for one religion to unite them all. Right? But the Orthodox Church, they see the Pope as just another guy. The Catholics see the Pope as the guy, but the Orthodox Church has a bunch of different guys who fill the same role as the Pope. But that is what it is. So the Great Schism was caused, but it didn't end their connection to each other because a call from Constantinople is what started the First Crusade. And we looked at the Peasants' Crusade at Hildebrand, Pope Gregory the Seventh, who said, we are going to go and we are going to do that. The investiture controversy, who gets to pick the church leaders? Who gets to put them in place? Is it the Pope? Is it Rome, or is it the nations? And so that becomes one of the things that was ongoing for a couple of hundred years. But the Crusade, you got the Seljuk Turks defeated, and you can look at that a little closer in your essay on the Crusades, because you will certainly have a question on that. And maybe yeah, Alex.
Is that when the Muslims came up from Africa through Spain and they almost, oh, no, that's a long time ago. So what was that?
That was a long time before. So they're already there, but the Seljuk Turks, a unique group of Muslims who had been displaced from over like in Pakistan, they had slowly moved over here, and they were threatening Constantinople. So Constantinople, the emperor there, or I can't remember his name, but he sends to the Pope in Paris, he sends to Hildebrand, who's in Paris, he sends a request for troops. And so 3 different groups come and land here, and they keep the Turks back. It's interesting that these guys didn't get involved because they weren't Turks. They were Muslim, but they didn't support these guys. So that was the First Crusade. So these guys are they're settled in and they're living their life here. So then in the Second Crusade, they seek to retake Edessa from the Turks. So they're pushing the Turks back more and more. But of course, nobody wanted to risk too much. Saladin is the great hero. He comes back up and retakes Jerusalem from Egypt, and he and Richard the Lion-Hearted kind of had a rivalry back and forth, and they actually ended up coming to a bit of a truce all the way down through. There's in the Third Crusade, there's Richard returned home after ransom was paid to Saladin. And King Richard was the least English of all of the kings of that age, and he's the only one that has a statue in England. But there's the map of the Third Crusade. The rise of scholasticism, the church-sponsored schools, the church-sponsored universities. There begins to be this study now. Now, I'm reading a book right now. Oh, I don't have it here. I'm reading a book right now, and this is another thing that has distracted me from the East. It is How the Irish Saved Civilization by Thomas Cahill. how the Irish saved civilization. Now think about what you know about Celtic Christianity. What did they do on the island of Iona?
They had a university.
Missionary school.
Missionary school. They were copying books, not just the Bible. They were copying books. They were scholars when all of Europe was going through what we call the Dark Ages. The Celtic Christians were scholars all through that time. They never lost. They didn't need a Renaissance. They already had all that information. They were literate, highly literate, because of Christianity, because they believed in the Word. And so being literate was huge for them, so they could read the Word themselves. The Roman Catholic Church had removed the Bible from the people, and the feudal system was in place, so it was illegal for a serf to learn to read. Knowledge is power. Reading brings knowledge. Yes, someone has a question?
Noah just has a squeaky chair. That's why
Oh.
it's his things keep popping up.
Gotcha. Okay, so you see the difference? That's the clash. The people were empowered within Celtic Christianity. They were disenfranchised under Roman Catholic rule, because as the upper crust came up here and the serfs stayed down here, they were very much invested in saying, this is God's will. You can't rise from here. It's God's will for you to be here. That's where you were born. It's God's will for you to be up here. It's where you're born. So you couldn't marry someone from here or marry someone from here, because God's will was that you stay here, and God's will was that you stay here. But as scholasticism began to rise, all of a sudden that gives birth to the Renaissance. That's the end of that PowerPoint. Is this class supposed to go for an hour or 2 hours?
1 hour. And then a class after that.
You have a different class after that?
No, we have you for 2
Maybe it's
hours.
Oh, okay. So take a break, and I will stop sharing this because I'm selfish. But go ahead and take like a 15-minute break and come back again.
Hey,
Yo, hey, Phil.
Phil, you're back.
Yeah, I made it like for the last 3 minutes.
All right. Well, take a break, get something to eat, and we will begin again.
how do I get out of here?
Just hit the stop video.
Okay.
Like stay on, but just hit stop video and mute, and you're fine.
Hey, Keenan. Hey, Keenan.
You see my dog?
Yeah, I saw the dog.
Crazy
I can
mutt.
also hear my echo.
I can't hear an echo.
I can.
Keenan! Are you echoing?
Hmm?
I don't think I'm echoing.
Yeah.
Philippe!
There's Keenan.
So, Philip, how was your fire?
We pulled out of the parking lot and got told to stand by in quarters. So we turned around and went back to quarters. Very, very
In other words,
uneventful.
they don't need you?
Yes, it was very uneventful.
Sad. No fires for you today.
Yep,
Which is actually probably a good thing.
very much so.
I hear a dog in the background.
That would be my sister's mouthpiece.
Your sister's mouthpiece?
Yes. Her name is Mackenzie. The dog, not my sister.
Such an ordinary name for a dog.
I didn't name it. Actually, I don't think she did either.
Zeke.
What's that?
Our dog's name is Zeke. And he's going back out to the office with my dad.
Fine.
Why did it have to snow?
It was too warm.
No
It's
such
beautifully sunny
thing.
at my house.
You didn't get any? We got about 6 inches here in Unity.
We got snow yesterday and then it all melted and now it is beautiful.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back. And then get stuck in isolation for another 2 weeks.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yep.
So you got to be in forced isolation for what, 3 weeks? 3 or 4?
I had no, because I had isolation here for as soon as we got back. So the week off, and then the week here school.
Okay, that's a lovely picture to suddenly see pop up. Alex with his tongue out. Wee!
And then I'll be done isolation, but then going home, traveling through the provinces, apparently I'm supposed to go back in isolation after that.
Very interesting.
Sounds like fun.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Well, only child, you get used to being alone. So it works.
Well, I wasn't an only child, but I was a bit introverted and I liked reading books over interacting with people, so.
Not cool.
But did you though? Did you really?
But I like people too. So
I feel like these things.
Is that a unicorn?
No.
the dinosaur.
A bicorn?
No.
A fictitious lizard?
Definitely not fictitious. I have so much stuff that even though most of it got packed away, some of it invaded my dad's little office in the house here. Oh, we lost a picture for somebody.
Brittany.
She's back.
Oh, it doesn't come in there. That's sad.
I can see that glass thing with a thing inside it.
It's a plasma ball?
You're a plasma wall.
I should hope not.
Why not?
Because that could be very dangerous.
Really? I think it's fascinating that you and I are talking about this and everyone else keeps listening. Like, why do we be here?
I mean, you can use the chat for just the two of you.
I guess we could. It's a lot of work,
What's the
though.
fun in that, though?
Should we say that? Never mind.
Never mind.
Never mind. I practice self-restraint.
Say it. Looks like oh no, that wasn't a Swedish fish. I thought Keenan had a Swedish fish. But nope, it was a marker.
I have a
You try eating
goldfish.
it.
You have a goldfish.
I have a goldfish.
Hello
I
there.
got blueberry barrels. And you really can't see them because of that sun coming in. Yes.
Hey, I am. I'm in process. I'm in process of changing locations.
You going to the whiteboard?
Yes. It will take a little bit. Get you as high as I want you.
I feel like there's somebody not here.
There's like 4 people not here. Ben Jost, Zachary Foster.
No, they're here.
They're just silent and not showing faces.
I got kicked off for a little.
Noah.
I'm here.
There he is.
I'm just quieter than normal.
I can hear your voice.
Ben, do you have a camera?
I do, but I've also got 3 siblings, a rabbit, 3 cats, 2 dogs, 3 dogs. And yeah, so
That's
just
a
a
lot of
little
pets.
busy. Now?
So why not show them to us?
Because, John Bell, I'm doing online school. My siblings don't want to be showing up all the time.
Because isn't a reason, Ben.
Oh, we see a Foster face.
Hello there, everybody.
Are you on a big old trampoline? Are you on a trampoline?
On a trampoline? I am
Yeah.
not. No.
It looks like you're on a trampoline.
Oh, just the back of my chair, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, that makes more sense now. It
The
literally
back
looks
of
like
the
you're.
chair and the wall.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
the
true,
wall.
I suppose.
The wall
Yeah,
is
I
a
got
very bright red.
a rocking chair
You're
going
very
on.
bright red.
I should hope not.
I'll be right back.
It's nice to see all your lovely faces again.
You lie.
No, I'm being serious.
You lie like a rug.
I only missed your face, Foster. Sorry,
I
John.
miss you too, Ben. I wish I could have stopped at your house on the way back home.
Yeah, you jerk. You spent all that time in Maine, didn't bother to visit with me?
Hey, I mean, Spearin lived like 5 minutes away and I didn't get to see him either.
I know where your priorities were.
Well, Ben, if the border had stayed open, I probably would have visited other people. Probably would have tried to see you and Alex and Benaya. Actually, I know I
I was
would
going to
have.
say if the border was open, I'd be visiting other people.
Yeah, I kind of figured you might.
We could probably all be at school then.
Oh, Freeland, by the way,
Yes.
apparently it's only like $200 to fly to Ontario.
Yeah.
So, hey, maybe I will be visiting out there more than I thought. I thought it was going to be like 600 or something. I was really getting prepared, you know.
Yeah, dude, that's actually not bad.
I was so happy to find that out. I was like, there's no way. That's amazing.
Well, if you don't know anyone in Ontario, I'd be happy to come pick you up from any airport. I live 2.5 hours to any decent airport.
Well, sweet. Thank you.
Bring Gary my old pickup truck.
I wish I had a pickup truck to name Gary.
Guys, how many
Yeah.
of you have security guards guarding your grocery stores and questioning everybody who wants to go shopping?
I haven't been able to go shopping yet, so.
I
No,
don't
no, not allowed to.
New Hampshire hasn't shut anything down yet.
Them outside the hospitals. Do they have
I
guns?
think, yeah, there's not much of a police presence in Carleton County, so I don't think that's gonna happen.
They're definitely ain't here in Unity.
They put caution tape all over the playground equipment too. Like no one can play. on
Really?
them.
Well, those things can be dangerous.
Hannah,
It's dangerous in Halifax, and that's what's going on.
what
Wow.
if you get
New
across?
Hampshire, we have a yet.
What did
Can
you say,
go across
Trent?
Nova Scotia?
I can't hear you.
Can you go to Nova Scotia?
No, they stopped they're stopping people on the highway, getting people to turn around and asking them where they've been and asking them to do 2-week quarantine if they cross over.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
like 5 minutes from my house. And so it's kind of weird because we were over there last week.
Ah.
That's so weird because I mean, usually to go from province to province, it's like you just see a sign telling you you're in Nova Scotia now. And
Yeah,
it's-
I can even
Not
imagine
really
what it looks like the stop that they have going on. I don't know because it's just a highway.
Panic. Ah!
All right.
No left.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't hear me, Brittany?
You're a little echoey.
Mine is like very glitchy, and I can't remember much of anything right this second.
Okay.
Yeah, mine's been doing the same thing off and on for quite a while. It just is like garbly almost.
Are you right next to your internet router?
I am, yeah.
Brittany and Noah.
Oh.
Sorry, was that a question? I didn't.
Are you
No, not really.
to your wireless router?
Because that could probably help matters some.
Type it to her, Jonathan.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's begin again. And so that was a basic review of Module 4. Now we're going to do a review of Module 5. What was the transition period in history? What was the transition period between the medieval ages and the beginning of the modern age?
The Renaissance?
Ah, very good. The Renaissance. And what does Renaissance mean? If Jesus was
Renaissance?
what's that?
Renaissance?
What is
Like new birth or new beginning or something?
a new birth. A new birth. If Jesus spoke French when he was talking to Nicodemus, he might have said, "You must be Renaissance," right? You must be born again, a new birth. And in Western civilization, what did that mean?
Depart from the church.
Yes. What you
people's
want to
cases.
do now probably is switch to speaker view, because I think you'll be able to see me better. And
How does one accomplish this?
and that'll come out better for you. Because in person it's straight. You're probably seeing it crooked, but it's perfectly straight.
Looks straight to me.
Yeah, see, good. Okay, so the Renaissance, the scholasticism that we touched upon begins to grow, and people from all walks of life begin to take on the goal of self-education. Probably not many of you are on my Facebook. I think some of you are. But let me read a quote for you from my Facebook site that comes from Louis L'Amour. Louis L'Amour.
Love Louis L'Amour. You should see my collection.
Oh
And
yeah,
all your books.
It's huge.
I became a fan of Louis L'Amour not long after moving to Maine. But this is what Louis said in his book, Education of a Wandering Man. He says, actually, all education is self-education. Matter of fact, hold on for a second. I'll just share it with you. All education is self-education. A teacher is only a guide to point out the way, and no school, no matter how excellent, can give you an education. What you receive is like the outlines in a child's coloring book. You must fill in the colors yourself. Now, isn't that just a cool thought? Because what we want to do, when we don't learn stuff, what we have a tendency to do is blame the teacher, right? We have a tendency to blame the teacher because, well, the teacher didn't teach it right, or the teacher didn't. When I was teaching the history of the King James Bible in a public school, there was one kid in particular who wanted to be a doctor, and the physics teacher had one Survivor. The reality show Survivor, the physics teacher at that school here from Maine won Survivor and stopped teaching. He still showed up in class and told stories about Survivor, but didn't teach his physics. He was just going to pass all of his students. He didn't care. So on her study hall, she would bring her physics book into the homeroom class that I was teaching in and sit there and read her physics book because she was trying to teach herself physics, which she probably learned physics better than anyone else before her in that school because she was owning it herself she was diving in and she was going to learn it one way or another. All education is self-education. Everything that you need to know, you already have access to. It's there. You're sitting in front of it. So when it comes to this particular class, I'm going to go close that door. But what I want you to do is, you were sent your notes, right? Online. Look up your notes, and I'll be right back.
How do we do that again, folks? MBBI dot what something?
Unless Mr. Little put them up, they weren't up originally.
They are up. It's mbbi.ca/class, password student75.
You are a lifesaver, metaphorically speaking. You say again, MBBI dot something?
Right?
mbbi.ca/class.
Beauty. What would I do without you, Phil?
Live life.
Basically.
Live life a whole lot sadder. Hey guys, guess what? It's up. Do you think we should turn on Reformation?
I'm not sure if it's Reformation or medieval that he wants.
I think I'm just gonna pull both up because that's something you can do.
That's what I'm doing.
It's medieval that he wants. Reformation is next year.
Are you sure?
Because
Yes.
both labeled church history too.
And we definitely talking about the Reformation when we left school.
Yes.
This whole module has been on the Reformation.
Yep. Guys, Keenan sent a link in our chat on this Zoom thing here. If anyone can click that.
What?
Genius.
Oh, the link.
Keenan Grant sent us a link to the spot, so you guys can click it right in our chat on here.
At keener.com.
So just go to the chat. Down there where it's lit up orange. And click on the PDF.
What page would it be on in our physical notes?
In your physical notes, it's Reformation Church History is where we begin. The life of Martin Luther. So that page is somewhere around.
Reformation of the Churches starts on page 24.
There you go. So since all education is self-education, I don't see what you're holding up.
It's the page on Martin Luther.
Oh, yeah, that's where we're starting.
Okay.
So now I want you to tell me about Martin Luther. What do you know about Martin Luther?
He was born on November 10th, 1483.
In Eisleben, Germany.
83, all right.
He was born at a very young age.
So is everyone.
Thank you.
Where was
obvious?
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your contribution.
Where was he born?
Eisleben, Germany. Eisleben.
So he's born in Germany. What
He
are
was a singer.
What's that?
He was a singer.
He was a singer. He was. Now, here's a little secret that's not well known outside of Germany, but his approach to music continues to have an influence in Germany today. He's at that kind of lasting influence because What's the state church of Germany?
Lutheranism.
The Lutheran Church. Very good. So keep in mind, he's going to start the Reformation and start the Protestant movement, but he's coming out of something. He's protesting against something. So his music, anyone know any of the hymns that he wrote?
A mighty fortress is our God.
Mighty Fortress is Our God. What's another one?
I don't know.
Christmas Carol.
Silent Night.
No, that was written by Franz Griebel. Away in a Manger.
That one.
Away in the Manger. That's the German way to say it. So he's a musician, and he thought he was going to have to put that away for the sake of Christ, but then he realized God hadn't given him that talent for nothing. So he invested his talent into honoring and glorifying God. So, born in Germany, he's a musician. What else do you know about him?
He became a doctor of theology in 1512.
1512.
Oh, ye reader of notes.
And it's fine to look at your notes because your exam is going to be open notes, open book, open source, right? So, but it's a matter of walking through and going, okay, so here's the facts about him. The fact that he's a musician that still impacts German music today, that's a lasting impact. Not necessarily for the gospel, but it's still a lasting impact. Where was Martin Luther reading when he got saved? What was the verse that the Holy Spirit used to convict his heart?
Romans 1:17.
Romans 1:17, which says what?
The just shall live by faith.
Quoting from the
Give me
Old
that 1 second.
Habakkuk 2.
Habakkuk 2. So in that section, the just shall live by faith, he begins to see the errors within the Roman Catholic Church. What is the error of the Roman Catholic Church in that regard?
Salvation by works.
Salvation by works. So
You'll be
Jesus,
saved by praying to Mary.
well, no, that's not salvation. That's not salvation. That's a tool within salvation. But Jesus paid it. Can you see that?
Jesus paid it some.
Jesus paid it some. That's the Roman Catholic. That's how the Roman Catholic Church has to sing that song. They don't, but that's how they have to sing. Jesus paid it all. Now that's not scripture, but it's a scriptural truth. Jesus paid it all. And so we can do nothing to earn it. We can do nothing to keep it. All we can do is receive it. That's it, right? So Martin Luther, what is the date that it all starts? The Reformation starts when?
October 31st, 1517.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Everybody say 1517.
1517.
What is 17 take away 12?
5.
5. So he gets his doctorate of theology 5 years before he receives salvation.
Who'd have thunk it?
Is it possible to learn yourself out of getting saved?
Yep.
It is ever learning and never coming to the knowledge of the truth, the Bible says. Martin Luther, he has studied the Bible and Catholic theology to the point of having received his doctorate. He's an expert. He's an expert in the human reasoning side of the religion, but he is not saved. Learning has to have an objective and has to be done with God's word in the context of relationship. So that's just an interesting side note. And how much of Catholicism did he give up in 1517?
None of it at that point.
Very little. Very little. The reason for that is that what he did was actually pose questions for a conversation. His 95 Theses were, hey, we need to talk about how all of these things are going. We need to talk about what's going right and what's going wrong within the church so we can correct it. Now, he was one voice among many that have been calling for about 20 years for the church to reform. And no one was taking it seriously, but it was still, there was a subtle push, but when he nailed those and somebody published them, took them down and published them, then that's when it really started. How long between when he nailed it and when he went before the Holy Roman Emperor and the Pope to defend it, to defend his writings?
5 years?
Is that what I'm saying?
5 years?
5 years. So 1522.
Actually 1521, but
What's that? So here's now. How much has he learned to get this? A lot, right? He's saturated with Catholic doctrine. He's saturated with Catholic reasoning, saturated with it. So when he sees salvation by faith alone in Christ alone and trusts Christ as his Savior, is all of that framework that was there to get this instantly gone?
nope.
No. He's a saved Catholic. He's a saved Roman Catholic who says, no, the church is wrong on how that works. No pun intended. But it's wrong in who. So in these 5 years, as he's reading and he's writing and he's bringing a different slant on it, he begins to change. But he never stops baptizing babies. He never stops seeing communion as something along the lines of consubstantiation. Know that it's still a work of grace. Christ is still there, very present in those elements, he doesn't live long enough to take the literal hermeneutic of studying the Bible and come to a broad understanding that it applies to all of the Bible, to all of theology. So Luther begins the Protestant Reformation, but he doesn't end it, and he certainly doesn't carry it far enough. Those who came along in the next 2 centuries begin to add to it. Those who were never in the Catholic Church, they come out in that non-compromised church. They come out and they begin to influence it a little bit, but it doesn't get until the 19th century. It really doesn't smooth completely out because the whole state church thing hasn't been let go of either. All of the colonies in America, before the Revolution had their own colonial or state religion. They all did. In Pennsylvania, it was Quakerism. In Maryland, it was Catholicism. In Virginia, it was Anglicanism or Church of England. It was Congregationalism in the Northeast. And if you didn't go to that church, you were out of the colony. For the most part, Pennsylvania kind of was a little soft on it. Manhattan was a little soft on it. Rhode Island, when it started, was purposely soft on it because they were started by Baptists who said, we can't force anyone in. So Martin Luther. Okay, who's a contemporary of Martin Luther? Who's a contemporary of Martin Luther in a different city? Oh, by the way, this might also appear because he's a light of the Reformation before the Reformation comes. There's two of them. They both start with J. Who are they?
John Bell.
John Bell. Close. Close. John
Wycliffe.
Wycliffe and
Us.
Haas. John
The
Haas.
goose that got
How many
cooked.
Johns?
What's that?
The goose that got cooked.
The goose that got cooked. I am a Hussite, Luther said. Going back to what country was Jan Hus from?
Bohemia.
Very good, Bohemia. So that was earlier influences, but who's a contemporary of Martin Luther in that humanism that started in the Renaissance?
Erasmus.
Another guy in the same area.
Was it Erasmus?
Erasmus was an influence on Luther because of the Bible.
Zwingli?
Farrell. Maybe.
Sorry, that didn't turn out right. Not Zwingli. Zwingli. So Zwingli is where? Where is he located?
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
In Switzerland. What town in particular?
Zurich.
He's in Zurich. So Zwingli in Zurich. While looking at your notes, what do you know about Zwingli?
He was a big dude who shoved a Catholic guy out of the way and set up a complete reformation.
He did. He was a fiery guy. He was a fiery guy. What do we know about him and Luther?
They got along except for the points of the presence of Christ. One thought it was literal, one had a different interpretation of that same word, liberal.
The 14 points, they agreed on 13 out of 14 of them, and what did Luther end up saying to Zwingli?
We are not of the same spirit.
Very good. We are not of the same spirit. Oh. Zwingli. How does Zwingli die?
Oh, in battle. He literally went out with the troops and got cut up because that was also, he thought the church would be kind of militant and oppressive.
He said,
By the sword, die by the sword.
that's essentially what happens. That's essentially what happens. And so Zwingli led a great movement that outlasted his foolish decision to fight with and against Ulrich Zwingli to fight against another province that was still Catholic. So Zwingli leads a movement. Does anyone remember what later movement, which is going to impact next year when we teach church history to you next year, what was the name of the group that was influenced by Zwingli? We didn't really step.
Zwinglians?
What's that?
Oh, Moravians, the Moravians.
The Moravians, very good. The Moravians would say, I'm a Zwingliite. probably not that, but they were influenced by Zwingli, and their approach to missions was huge. And these were true believers. They had kind of a resurgence under Count von Zinzendorf about 100 years, 150 years after Zwingli. And we don't need to study that, but just know that that was so when you pass by a Wesleyan church or a Methodist church today, those churches point to the Moravians as having been an influence on John and Charles Wesley that started that Methodist movement. George Whitefield as well, but it goes back to Zwingli and the Protestant Reformation, because they actually led both John and Charles to Christ within a week of each other after they were impacted by them. So Zwingli, anything else that you know about Zwingli? Go ahead, look at your note.
He disregarded the lectionary.
Ah.
And so that means that he abolished the ordinary way of doing Catholic Church.
Right. So he takes the liturgy, says, no, we're not doing that anymore. We are done. We are done following the church's example. And so he does something extraordinary when he begins to preach what book?
Bible? Like expositionally?
Yes, but which book?
Was it Matthew?
Matthew, very good. The book of Matthew. So those who preach exposition today could say I'm a Zwinglian, because you come to the Bible, you preach the Bible. So
was he the one that preached like on the same level as the people? Was he the one that he got rid of the super high pulpit and he decided that he was going to preach in the same level?
Yes, yeah, came right down, right on the floor, because he wanted to be where they were. Yep. Very good. So, who comes next?
Calvin.
No?
No?
The influence.
Oh, William Farel.
Farel.
William Farel. Speaking of fiery preachers. The Reformation Wall in Geneva. The Reformation Wall in Geneva. The first guy standing there is Farel. And what is obvious about Farel that's not obvious about the other 4 or 5 after him? And remember from that video? Does anyone remember from that video?
Was he praying?
No.
He said to John Calvin, if your studies don't lead you to help the people of God, they should be damned.
He said it to Calvin. Calvin, not Luther. But in the statue, his hand isn't open like everybody else's. His hand is closed in a fist, because he was ready to fight. He was ready to fight. He was ready to take it all on. And so Farel was the most firebrandish of all those preachers. He was so strong. And so that's why he said to Calvin, who had already written Institutes, was already well known, but when he stops by Geneva, that's when Farel said that to him. Said, may God curse your studies if you're not willing to step up and help in this present time. Some of you realize, I'm sure, that some of us in the older generation, if we were honest, could be saying that to you. This is not a class on the coronavirus, but your world is disrupted today like it never has been in all of human history. And it's not because of the virus itself, it's the panic that's been caused by the virus. It's the totalitarianism of people standing at the supermarket with guns. It's the totalitarianism of you can't meet more than 2 of the state of California. No more than 2 people can meet. And the police will break it up. If they see 10 or more, they will break it up. And you might get arrested. But probably sent home to quarantine yourself. But craziness. What's going on right now is craziness, and it is disrupting the order of things, especially in free countries, especially in countries like Canada and America. It is disrupting, and it's not just everyone's not going places, right? The government's shutting down, the courts are shutting down. Talked to a guy today whose brother, he claims is innocent, is in jail in Massachusetts. I'm not sure he's completely innocent, but he can't get a court case. Can't get a court case, the court's all shut down. So he's sitting in jail till the court's open again, which could be 2 months from now. And they might just release him because he might be innocent, right? So it's not, churches aren't suffering more than anybody else. Churches are suffering along with everybody else, right? How many of you went to church online this week? Yeah, us too. William Farrell, and he stood up and he shook his world. He shook his world. So him telling John Calvin, may God curse your studies if you don't rise up and help. If you don't rise up and take part, right? That's always the call for all of us. Christianity, conservative Christianity, is 1 generation away from disappearing. Always. Always. The way that your church believes, the way that you believe, the way MBVI believes, all it's going to take is for your whole generation to turn your back on it. That's it. Your whole generation turns its back on it, and by the time my generation dies, in another 30 years, it's gone. Still out there, it's still, but it's gone. If your generation doesn't pick it up and take it, who's going to? Right? It just doesn't happen that way. So Farrell was right when he challenged John Calvin that way. I've got my disagreements with John Calvin. John Calvin doesn't care about them at this point, but I disagree with some of the stuff he taught, but it's hard to say that he didn't have an impact for the gospel. He had missionaries in Brazil when Brazil was all Catholic. He sent missionaries to Brazil when Brazil was run by just Catholics. He sent missionaries from Europe to Brazil. So William Farrell, John Calvin, Zwingli, and Luther. You will have essay questions on those guys. And once again, you need to understand, let me just make sure, good. I was just scared that perhaps perhaps in my other computer shutting down, that possibly the recording stopped, but the recording's still going. So this recording will be available to you for whatever use it is. But here's the deal. The exam, what I'm looking for you to tell me about some of the events that will be asked in the question. Tell me about some of those events, and then give me your analysis of how that event affected that day and how that event possibly affects today with an example that you've seen, or example that you've found. And remember, it is open notes, open book, open sources. I don't necessarily care. If you're not quoting a source, I don't need the source. I want you to analyze the source, analyze your notes, analyze the question, analyze the event. And if you're listing the event from the source, go ahead and feel free to just say, got this from this website, got this from this book, got this from wherever. As it says in or as it said on a web page, just say something like that. I don't care about you sourcing it per se, because I don't care about the events. I want you to list them so that I know what you're talking about, and then I want you to work through a scriptural analysis of the event. Was it good? Was it bad? What effect did it have in the immediate? What effect has it continued to have, or could it continue to have had it gone forward? Any questions on any of that?
How long are you going to want the answers? Is this like the questions you have us do with the book?
No, this will be different. These are essay questions. So I'm going to be looking probably for 3 paragraphs is what you're going to need, because you'll have 1 paragraph describing the event that corresponds to the question, and then you're going to probably need 2 paragraphs to give me the analysis, to do an analytical look at it for that time, and then 1 paragraph on the influence of that time, and 1 paragraph on the present time. Alex.
Yeah.
You
Go ahead,
Thanks. You probably already said this, but we're gonna email the answers into you, or post them, or what?
I will email you once the questions are done. I will email that to you, and that should be done. If it's not done today, it'll be done first thing tomorrow morning, because I got a board meeting this afternoon starting in about 2 hours. So once you get that, you can start to work on it right away. And your class tomorrow that was going to be a live class, if you guys want to get together and group talk about it, or 2 or 3 of you want to get together in a group, however is easiest for you to, whether you're going to email back and forth or you just want to do something like this, like on Facebook or something, feel free to do that to talk it through. But yeah, I will email it to you in a Word document, and then you can send it back to me on Google Docs, or you can send it back to me in Word. You can email it to me, or just share it with my pastor@westbuxtonbaptist.com email address.
You don't want us, like, if we were to do that thing where we get together and talk about it, you don't want us doing a test together though, right? Like, we should do a test separately at another time, like by ourselves. We can't do it together.
If you're not coming up with the same answers, I don't mind you studying together, because it's all open source. So I don't want you copying each other, but for you to work as a group of 2 or a group of 3 or something, and to be thinking the things through, I don't mind that at all. But you're not copying and pasting what someone else thought. You're putting down what you thought.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, doing it in small groups, I am fine with that, because on certain questions, getting someone else's perspective and understanding of it might help you. And if you have any questions, I may not be able to get back to you immediately, because I might be like at the jail, or I might be out someplace, but I am relatively close to my computer these days, because there's not a lot of places to go. So feel free to text me, and when I send the exam out, I will send you my email address and the best number to get me texting wise.
So are we going to be doing, like it says, tell some of the events, and is it the events for like Zwingli, Calvin, and Luther, or just like how many are you looking for, like events that we've discussed for the whole class?
Each of the questions that I give you, will be addressing a specific time period, or a specific individual, or maybe even specific, like a specific event. So the questions will give you what you need to know from who you're going to look at, and then whatever aspect of them or the event that you look at, that's up to you. You can read down through, study through, and take what jumps out to you or what has jumped out to you in the study of it, and then write it down, and then analyze it. Write down any questions that it brings to your mind. Even if you don't have answers to the questions, write down the questions and say, well, this causes me to wonder about this or to wonder about that. And then give an analysis of the event, analysis of the individual, or an event from the individual's life, like Martin Luther's marriage,
Okay.
the interaction between Farrell and Calvin, any of those kinds of things, and then analyze it. If you can analyze it with some scriptural principles as to how they kept them, how they went against them, and then how that has an impact into today.
Okay. When is this due?
I gave an arbitrary date of April 15th, only because that's probably the last day you can get in, because I need to have everything graded by like April 22nd or something like that. So you can work on it. You can work on it one question at a time. And if you want to stand up and leave, that's fine, because no one's proctoring this for you. I just didn't think it made sense to cram anything, because there's no sense you sitting and memorizing stuff that we did 3 or 4 months ago just to put it on a piece of paper. I want you to stop and look at the Middle Age time period and the early Reformation time period, and pick something out that stands out to you and analyze it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the question. Anyone else with questions on this? Feel free to email me anything that pops up, but I will get that to you as soon as I get it done. I will, if I don't get it done before the board meeting, which I'm guessing I'm not going to, because I'm just not going to have enough time. Then I will get it done first thing in the morning, and get that out to you. All right.
Bueno.
Hey, listen, my very first church history class of MBBI ever. It's been great teaching you. It's been great teaching you. You've been a great class. You've been a very participatory class, and I am sorry to see us end this year this way. I was really hoping to get up there for the last class and see you all. And
Well, we have another class tomorrow.
well, actually, that's a study hall class for you guys. So I'm not sure. I was hoping to be available, but I think I'm going to be in jail.
I'm sorry.
That sounds so bad if you don't have the context.
Yes, it is. But the joke never gets old to me, so I just keep saying it. But I haven't gotten permission. I had permission last week to go in. I haven't gotten permission to be there. So if I'm not there, you will know that, and I will make myself available on Zoom if you want to just pop in and ask me questions. But take the time tomorrow and group up. If I'm not available for Zoom, feel free to group up and discuss the questions, because you should have them by the time class starts.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to end this meeting for all, and then Brittany,
Yes.
could you just send me a list of everybody's email so that I can just send it out to just one email to everybody?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, let's close in prayer, and just let's commit the rest of this year to the Lord as you learn in a whole different way. And just keep seeking the Lord in all of this, and take this time as from Him, and grab a hold of the last piece of this year's education grab a hold of it for yourself, and you got to carry it for yourself. So let's pray. Lord, what a joy it is to be seeing these young folks who are desiring to serve you in whatever capacity. Lord, whether it's full-time or not. Lord, I pray that this time of study would be enriching to them. Father, that they would be able to see the way forward, even though everything is discombobulated, but we know that this did not catch you by surprise. We rest in that. Father, all the way through church history, there have been those who have wondered what in the world you were doing and why in the world this had to happen. We are certainly not alone from our brothers and sisters in the past who looked at the same things. But Father, we are in a unique place in our society where we can stay connected across thousands of miles. Father, bless each and every one of these students. Lord, I pray that they would keep their eyes on you and seek to keep increasing in the knowledge of you with all wisdom and spiritual understanding, like your word says in Colossians. Thank you, Father, in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Stay safe, wash your hands, and keep smiling.
Why would we want to do a thing like that?
What's that?
Why would we want to do a thing like that?
Wash your hands or keep smiling?
Either one works.
All right, I'm going to end the meeting for all, so say goodbye to each other.
Have a good one, friend.
Bye, all.